Howdy folks, welcome to the channel, The Agnostic Philosopher. I'm Don. I come to you from a relatively neutral standpoint. I have thoughts on things, but mostly I just review arguments that are being made in favor or against other things and share my thoughts on how the argument is made and so on. But also a lot of what I react to or review on here, it's mostly reactions, I learn from. And I'm very curious. I'm always going to be curious. It's just my nature where I like to see and hear different strains of thought and where people are coming from. So this one, though, is fascinating. How to build a wormhole. And it's about how we can travel faster than the speed of light, which Einstein posited and virtually every scientist agrees with. This doesn't make a right, by the way, but is impossible for anything to travel faster than the speed of light. One problem, though, is that James Webb Space Telescope has discovered, unexpectedly naturally, that there are galaxies traveling away from us faster than the speed of light. So we've got to account for that. How can we see something that's moving away from us faster than the speed of light? Things like this. But this is Janna Levin on Lex Fridman's show, How to Build a Wormhole, and it is about how we could possibly travel faster than the speed of light, which theoretically would enable us to go back in time. All right, and I've seen one video on it with Janna Levin. I think I reacted to one with her, and she's very bright, very likable, very articulate, seems to be just like, would actually be a pretty cool person to hang out with, not just like one of these boring scientist types, or believe me, they're boring religionist types. So I'm not drawing a line there. I'm just saying, seems pretty cool. And Lex asks really good questions. Like I really like his, I don't know, frame of mind, frame of reference.
So if I may read off some of the ideas that Kip Thorne has had about how to artificially construct wormholes. So the first method involves quantum mechanics and the concept of quantum foam. And this is the thing we've been talking about. Now, to create a wormhole, these tiny wormholes would need to be enlarged and stabilized to be useful for travel. But the exact method of doing this remains entirely theoretical. No shit. You think so? So these tiny wormholes that are basically...
Well, and she's a theoretical physicist too, not a practical one. She's a theoretician, shall we say, a theorist.
For the quantum entanglement of the particles, somehow enlarged. Man, playing with the topology of the Swiss cheese would be so interesting. Even to get a hint. That would be like top 3, if not one of the, maybe even number 1 question for me to ask. If I got a chance to ask
an omniscient
being of like a question they can get an answer to, maybe with some visualization.
Yeah.
Like the shape, the topology of the universe.
Yeah.
But like I need some details.
Right.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'll get an answer that I can't possibly comprehend.
Right. It's a hyperbolic manifold that's identified across. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You need to be able to ask a follow-up question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that would be so interesting. Anyway, classical quantum strategy. The second approach combines classical physics with quantum effects. This method would require an advanced civilization to manipulate quantum gravity effects in ways we don't yet understand. There's a lot of...
In ways we don't understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of... And then there's exotic matter requirements. There's a lot of...
But I can tell you,
stabilization.
I'm pretty sure all of them have in common the feature that they're saying, here's what I want my wormhole to look like first. So it's like saying, I want to build a building first. So they construct, there's an architecture of the space-time that they're after. And then they reverse the Einstein equations to say, what must matter and energy? What are the conditions that I impose on matter and energy to build this architecture?
Which is unfortunately a very early step of figuring out things.
But it's important because it's how they realized, oh, wow, they have to have these negative energies. They have to violate certain energy conditions that we often assume are true. And then you either say, oh, well, then all bets are off, they'll never exist. Or you look a little harder and you say, well, I can violate that energy condition without it being that big a deal. And and again, quantum mechanics often does violate those energy conditions.
So do you think the studying of black holes and some of the topics we've been talking about will allow us to travel faster than the speed of light or travel close to the speed of light or do some kind of really innovative breakthroughs on the propulsion technology we use for traveling in space.
Yeah, I mean,
Before she answers, I did want to interject that this is the way the human mind works, whether it's in the sciences or whether it's in theology or any other branch, sociology or whatever. We try to make connections, connect different dots, but a lot of it is not provable or testable yet. And that's why I've said this in prior videos. And of course, the hardcore atheists or hardcore Christians have a problem with this, that there is no difference in the thought processes at work. The premises are different. What we're looking to prove is different. What we're hoping to prove is different. But this here is a theoretical physicist in many ways does not differ from someone who believes that there was a creator to the universe. And I'm not advocating for either position because I simply don't know. Epistemologically, I just say, look, this isn't something I can know. Maybe at some point it'll show up, but there's no difference like in what we're looking to do or what's being theorized here. Every part of that definition he read, he was like, quantum mechanics have to be maneuvered in ways that we don't yet understand. And this is that we don't yet understand. And this has to happen. And now we're trying to look at the architecture of the universe and see what would happen to make our way through the Swiss cheese and such. That to me is no different as a creative endeavor than thinking you'll prove that there's an omniscient being or a creator of the universe, or that a creator would reveal him or her or itself to us at some point. Provable? No. In the future, it would have to be, because to me, it's not yet happened. Let's see where she goes with it.
sometimes I assign in an advanced general relativity class the assignment of inventing a warp drive.
Warp drive.
And it's kind of similar. So the idea is here's a place you want to get to, and can you contract the space-time between you with something antithetical to dark energy?
I love it.
The opposite. And skip across and then push it back out again. That's all. You can do that in the context of general relativity. Now, I can't find the energy that has these properties, but I also can't find dark energy. So we've already been confronted with something that we look at the space-time. The space-time is expanding ever faster. We say, what could possibly do that? We don't know what it is, but I can tell you about its pressure. I can tell you certain features about it. And I just call it dark energy, but I actually have no idea. It's just, that name's just a proxy for what this, it should be called invisible because it's not actually dark. If it's in this room, it's not hard to see through. It's not dark. It's literally invisible. So maybe that was a misnomer, but the point being, I still don't fundamentally know what it is. That's not so terrible. That's the state of the world that we're actually in. So maybe warp drive is just kind of like a version of that. I don't know what form of matter can do that yet, but at least I can identify the features that are needed.
I like the way she thinks. She's a philosopher at heart, as most theorists are in any realm, because you're thinking about things that don't exist. Even that, in philosophical terms, existence. I mean, we study existentialism. What is the nature of being? There are ontological arguments, and then you get into teleology and how things work, and are they going to better states or worse, depending on how you define it. But I like that she pointed out that dark energy is a misnomer. It really should be called invisible energy. And I do find it almost comical, simply because it's so typical of human nature, and it shows up in the sciences. And I know that atheists, or even some agnostics, or those who are not partial to religion, use very religious or spiritual, non-testable ideas. The hope is that you'll be able to test them down the road, but the goals, the talk, are very similar to that which exists in theology. The difference is, say, Christianity is predicated on 27 books or letters in the New Testament, and a passing nod is given to the Hebrew Bible in that, even though Christianity is supposedly founded upon it. But even still, if you just take this one, I call it an entire collection, Hebrew Bible with the New Testament appended to it, then all of one's thoughts would then be constrained by that book. Whereas in the sciences, if you will, the literature, the experimentation is much larger to draw upon. Is that an advantage? I don't know. Maybe it's watered down nonsense in some ways. A lot of what we've studied and thought mankind has over time has proven to be false, wrong, misguided, dangerous, harmful. In the future, I suspect, for example, the future, 100 years, 500 years, assuming mankind survives that long, and I don't have reason to think we won't, but a plague could wipe us out. I don't think nuclear war would, but it could, or some other thing. But all like plastics in the future, mankind's going to look back and say, good God, how did they make so much of it and just trash the place? It doesn't biodegrade. And I liken it to other things like smoking on airplanes or people being able to allow their dog to take a dump in your yard. I mean, these were things that were acceptable, so they became cultural, if not inconvenient. But down the road, you look back and you're like, God, how barbaric. And I think that's going to happen with the way we look back on plastics. But when plastic was invented, and then developed into microwavables and all these different types of plastics. Some are conductive as well, that we'll look back and say, why did people do that? Because we just sort of bunch an era of time, ERA of time, and we just say the plastic generation, the Industrial Revolution, any other revolution you want to come up with, and clump it into one and say, what were they thinking? As though there wasn't divergent thoughts in there. So in here, the way she approaches her field of physics, I like it very much because it's philosophically oriented. She recognizes limits. Most people do. She seems to be comfortable with them. And it's just a fascinating idea of, will we be able to travel faster than the speed of light? If so, Lex's question was a fascinating one. He'd like to know the topography of the universe, to which she rejoined, yeah, you'd want to ask a follow-up question to that or two and be like, yeah, probably. But I think even if we gained the topography of the universe, I don't think it would be as interesting or useful in the overall scope of things as Lex may have thought in the moment. Some things are scintillating to the mind or titillating to the mind in the moment, but they don't carry the weight that we expect. And I think it would be fascinating to understand it, and maybe he would just need to elucidate upon what he means by topography, what's specifics if there is that. But I think, can we travel faster than the speed of light? Maybe even, will we travel faster than the speed of light would be a better question to answer. Get the answer to, because then the supposition would be, well, we're kind of on the right track. I don't know which one of us is on the right track, collectively or individually, but if we're going to get there, God, omniscient being, whatever you want to call the name of this very powerful, very bright individual, that would be a good answer to get. Will we? And then we could be on and just sort of stay the course. But I mean, would we want to get the topography of the universe and it unravels all of what we think or much of what we think? Maybe. I kind of do. I like a good revolution, but not one that undoes everything, because then you've got a vacuum and you're like, what's it going to be filled with? I mean, if we found out that the topography of the universe was such that it unraveled special relativity and mathematics as we knew it, and quantum mechanics, and the notion of invisible matter, which is dark matter is a funny name. Human beings come up with terms, whether in the sciences or elsewhere, that are just comical. Dark matter. We don't know what it is, but it's there. We're pretty sure. Dark matter. And then she's like, well, it's not even dark. It's invisible. Okay. So they couldn't use invisible matter because that would make them sound dumb. It would just sound like a convenient term to come up with. But it's like, you can see in the science meeting, or the two guys that are women that found it or discovered it, be like, we got to come up with a good name for this. Just like naming a baby, you got to come up with, or a store, you got to come up with a good name for it. We're going to call it dark matter instead of invisible. Now, there were other options. I don't know what the adjectives would have been for it, but we come up with it, and it's just as spiritual, if you will, as anything people come up with in theology. And I'm agnostic. I just see the parallel lines of thinking. It's kind of easy to see. So maybe they're just fractals of a different, of the same tree, possibly manifesting differently. But anyway, if we travel faster than the speed of light at some point, if we find a way to do it, on the quantum level, there would be issues because how would the molecules, will we have to disassemble the molecular structure, or will it be I'm able to be transported elsewhere faster than the speed of light? It does compress space-time. It compresses the distance, if you will. So, all right, guys, hope you enjoyed that. That's fun learning. I read your thoughts, too. Some of you folks are very, very bright, and you leave comments that I appreciate the heck out of because I learned from them, too. Whether I'm right or wrong in one sense doesn't matter. I like learning things that are better or more than what I currently know. Have a great day. See you on another video. Please subscribe and keep thinking philosophically.